This is a short reel.
Hi, this is Charles, co-host and international pants coordinator for the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. Welcome to the first episode of the Short Reel. This is our show between shows where we'll be offering a shorter experience focusing on really just about anything we can think of pertaining to our flagship show or drive-ins or movies in general. You could hear trailers for movies that we'll be covering way down the road. You might hear sneak peeks of conversations from future episodes, like you'll be hearing later on tonight. We might talk about the history of a particular drive-in theater, or maybe we'll discuss the real stories behind the movies we cover. Or we might either talk about something we, meaning Ryan, missed in a movie discussion from a previous episode, or lay the groundwork for the following week's episode. You might get one of us, or you might get both of us. Sometimes we both won't be able to get away because of much-needed projector or soda machine repairs. I mean, have you ever taken a soda machine apart? No, I mean, seriously, have you? Because I never have, and we might need to get you out here to take a gander at it. Anyway, there are no set rules, no real structure, and hopefully no wasting time. So let's start the show. First up, I want to talk about the nature of the all-night drive-in picture show. For some, the term drive-in has become synonymous with low-budget exploitation movies, and it excludes anything with a big budget, a big star, or a big everything. The reality, though, is that nearly every type of movie under the sun, or, well, the stars, could have played at the drive-in. So while we will be discussing movies in the horror and sci-fi vein for the first 3 episodes or so, in due time, we will cover movies that you might not readily associate as a quote-unquote drive-in picture, like Oscar contenders from throughout film history or modern movies that we didn't feel got a fair shake, for instance. We started this podcast to both celebrate the drive-in experience and to talk about movies of all shapes, sizes, and stripes. Our goal is to deliver a night at the drive-in in miniature to your podcast feed every other week. So even if you're not necessarily excited about a movie or a set of movies we're featuring on a given episode, we hope you'll trust that if we don't get you to buy a ticket that week, we'll probably roll something you love or will fall in love with on the next episode. And really, that's how the drive-in used to be. Sometimes you looked in the newspaper on a Wednesday or a Friday and found out the weekend was going to be a bust because nothing you liked was playing. But you'd always end up checking again the next week, right? Or maybe, just maybe, you'd go see that movie you didn't think you'd like anyway. And maybe you found something new that spoke to you and expanded your horizons. The experience of seeing a movie under a clear night sky can do that to you. Probably more so than seeing it in an indoor theater, and definitely more so than seeing it at home. So please stick with us. And rest assured, we're going to try and cover as broad of a spectrum of movies as possible. Thanks for your patronage. Speaking of the drive-in experience, right now we're going to offer you a piece of a discussion that will come up in an episode that will likely air in late December or early January about our memories of going to the drive-in and the aspects of that experience that stuck with us. You actually saw this movie in the drive-in, didn't you?
It wasn't the drive-in. Unfortunately, no. It was at the old Regency Theater.
Oh, it was on the same grounds as the South 31 drive-in.
Yeah.
So, That was great. We had this place, and it was... The theater itself was like this nice, cool old theater that had chandeliers, and it was the only place I knew that actually, before you watched the movie, It had the kaleidoscope that was just, it looked like somebody was turning it up in the projection booth themselves. And they had rocking seats, which was, I mean, nobody had those at the time.
Nowadays you have recliners, but back then it was usually,
just straight up old baseball seats, pretty much with some padding on them. And then on the same grounds right there, probably maybe
20 yards away. Maybe.
Yeah. There was a drive-in, and South 31 Drive-In is where I saw Star Wars.
That's where I saw Cannonball Run.
Yeah, and Star Wars, the night we saw it, it was so clear that night that when the scroll came up at the beginning, it looked like it was really going into the sky because there wasn't a lot of light pollution.
Yeah.
So I was watching it in my footed pajamas at probably 4 or 5, I guess, when 4, I guess.
77.
In 77, so I was about 4.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place. Now it's just like a strip mall, just like everything else.
Gaudy strip mall, yeah.
The drive-in actually had an apartment complex behind it. They were like townhouses, but they actually made these little jutting areas on the back of all those places so that their windows, they could have windows in their bedrooms or whatever upstairs, but they wouldn't face the drive-in, so you couldn't watch movies for free from your apartment complex, your apartment, which I thought was such a dick move.
We had 4 drive-ins that we frequented when I was a kid, and it's a shame what they've all turned into now.
Yeah.
That drive-in is now a big gaudy strip mall.
The Burlington Coat Factory.
The Greenwood Drive-In that I went to a lot when I was a kid is now like a big auto mall. The Fry Road and 135 Drive-In is a housing addition. But even worse than all of that, the drive-in that was on State Road 37 and 465, which had 3 screens. It was the only one in town that had 3 screens. That one is a semi-car wash now.
Yeah.
It's just a car wash for tractor trailers. And it's just like, ugh.
So this is a PSA. Support your local drive-in.
Please.
Every last one of them.
There's not many left, and we need them.
Yeah.
We need that type of nostalgia and that type of, escape in our lives.
Well, and seeing a movie like that is just such a different experience because you are with people, but at the same time you have your own kind of private space. I think that's why I miss it. I don't like going to the theater as much, even though I like the big screen and I like all that kind of stuff. I don't like seeing it in a space with other people. I think the drive-in's a great place to have kind of your own space, but also be able to share an experience with other people. And there's just a lot. I don't know. The atmosphere is so different. And if you've never been to a drive-in, it's hard to explain to somebody who's never been to a drive-in what that's like unless they just go and experience it.
Yeah.
So
the drive-ins nowadays are quite a bit different. You used to have a speaker on a post that you would hang off of your window.
Right.
And now they've got it so that you can tune into a radio station, like a dead frequency on your radio station, and pick up the sound now, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, you can hear it in stereo sound in your car, and that's great. But God, it was such a unique experience.
Honestly, too, I think that home systems then weren't good for movies. I mean, really, you didn't have, especially in the 70s, 60s, 70s, up until the 80s, really, there was really no home video market. There was nothing like that. So if you were watching a movie at home, you were watching it on your television. For me, there were a lot of movies that I only saw on my black and white television for years, and you only saw them if they just happened to come on. And the black and white television had one little speaker.
Right.
So when you go to the theater, or you go to the drive-in, I should say, you had this one little speaker post, and today people would bitch and complain about how terrible that sound is. But that's because if you stay home, you have better quality sound in your house now than an indoor theater had back then.
Yeah.
In a way, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like singing along with a crowd at a concert where you all get together and you all have your speakers going, and they're these little tiny speakers, but all together you kind of hear this echoing soundtrack to this movie. So even when you're walking to the concession stand, you can still kind of hear it, you know?
Yes.
It's just, and it's being outside, and there's all this stuff that goes into the drive-in experience that we just have lost.
We went to see Scary Stories That You Tell in the Dark, and they captured the drive-in experience really well in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a double feature that features Night of the Living Dead, and they're sitting out in lawn chairs watching the movie. And at one part, a couple of the characters are walking to the concession stand, and you hear that ambient sound of all of the different speakers. And they capture it really, really well, and it just took me back to my childhood like nothing else. It just, it's beautiful.
I love that. I love like driving into a drive-in theater, especially one that had multiple screens, and looking and seeing the other movies playing or whatever on the other screens, and wondering like, oh, what's that? And what's this? It's a totally different experience. It's good that some of them are still around and that they're finding some sort of traction in today's world.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that there aren't more. Next week, we will offer a truly dark Black Friday double feature as we examine the original Dawn of the Dead and Chopping Mall. Please note that we will be talking about George Romero's theatrical cut of Dawn of the Dead and will not reference Dario Argento's or European cut at all. This is not because we dislike Argento's edit of the film, but simply because we wanted to discuss Romero's unfiltered vision of the movie that bears his name. So, for those of you watching at home, the U.S. theatrical cut is the one to see ahead of the conversation. Thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the ticket gate next week. That's it for the short reel this week. You can connect with us by following us on social media at All Night Drive-In on Twitter and Instagram, by searching the All Night Drive-In Picture Show on Facebook, and by emailing us at allnightdriveinpictureshow@gmail.com. Please subscribe to and rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher if possible. And more importantly, tell your friends. Sneaking your friends into the show in the trunk is definitely allowed at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. I mean, Stubbs probably won't like it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So we'll see you next week on the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. Thanks for listening.
The Short Reel is edited and produced by Markham Harvey. Our theme song is by Burning Mirror and edited by The Night Watch. I'm your announcer, Lila Pseudonym. This has been a Clown Business Coalition production. Thank you and good night.